Inside the lightning abyss, Shihao suddenly noticed a dull grey ancient stone about a zhang long flashing through the endless lightning. Shocked, he stared carefully to make sure he had not mistaken what he saw. Sanzang quickly confirmed that he saw the same object, while Shenming watched in stunned silence. Knowing how dangerous the lightning abyss was, the three remained motionless and carefully observed the strange phenomenon instead of acting recklessly. As millions of lightning bolts erupted and illuminated the abyss, they finally saw the object clearly. It was not an ordinary stone but a genuine lightning pool, the source from which countless streaks of lightning continuously emerged. Shihao immediately recognized it because he had once risked his life capturing a real lightning pool during heavenly tribulation. At that time, he had nearly died from his injuries, and everyone at Imperial Pass had been astonished because obtaining a true lightning pool was considered almost impossible. What made the discovery even more unbelievable was that no one was undergoing heavenly tribulation. Yet the lightning pool was freely moving deep inside the lightning abyss. Normally, the lightning pools that appeared during tribulation were believed to be nothing more than temporary projections that vanished once the tribulation ended. Shihao's previous experience had already been regarded as a unique miracle. But this scene completely overturned everything they knew. Soon afterward, the three realized that there was not only one lightning pool. A second black lightning pool, about 3 square feet in size, emerged from the sea of lightning. Although it was smaller than the first, the destructive lightning it released was even more terrifying. According to all ancient records and bone books, even the greatest cultivators crossing heavenly tribulation could only encounter a single lightning pool. If two appeared together, one had to be an illusion. However, the two pools before them both radiated tangible power, making them appear completely real. Before they could recover from their shock, a third silver-white lightning pool surfaced. It measured roughly 6 square feet and continuously released brilliant white lightning capable of tearing apart the void. Endless destructive energy poured out from it, causing Shihao, Sanzang, and Shenming to stand speechless. The 3 lightning pools drifted through the sea of lightning like enormous sharks swimming beneath the waves, occasionally disappearing beneath the lightning before resurfacing again. Watching this impossible scene, they began to suspect that the lightning abyss might actually be the origin of all lightning. Perhaps even the birthplace of heavenly punishment itself. If that were true, then the secrets hidden within this place would surpass anything they had ever imagined. The astonishing discovery made Shenming increasingly uneasy. She suggested withdrawing before their hidden cultivation levels triggered heavenly tribulation. Shihao, however, proposed an even more shocking theory. Ever since the Immortal Ancient Great Era ended, heavenly tribulations had mysteriously disappeared from the outside world. He believed those missing tribulations might not have vanished at all but had instead gathered within this lightning abyss. The existence of multiple genuine lightning pools strongly supported this possibility. Sanzang reminded him that retreat was impossible regardless. The transport formation leading back no longer existed, which was why they had continued advancing until reaching this place. With no road behind them, their only option was to keep moving forward. Not long afterward, a fourth lightning pool appeared. This one was blood red and nearly 10 zhang long. Blood-colored lightning surged within it, accompanied by an overwhelming bloody aura that made it resemble a giant pool capable of devouring the essence blood of every living creature. Although none of them knew its true abilities, its terrifying pressure alone made their hearts pound and their souls tremble. Seeing 4 genuine lightning pools gathered together left them completely stunned, unable to comprehend what kind of forbidden place they had entered. Shenming then wondered whether these enormous lightning pools contained the legendary lightning tribulation liquid, a priceless treasure born from heavenly tribulation. Shihao immediately answered that they almost certainly did, since the small lightning pool he had captured years earlier already contained some of the precious liquid. Sanzang also agreed, saying he had caught a glimpse of something sparkling inside one of the pools, which was likely lightning tribulation liquid. Faced with a blocked retreat and an equally dangerous path ahead, Shihao suggested that although the lightning abyss represented absolute destruction, it might also conceal the only chance of survival. Shenming agreed, explaining that lightning tribulation liquid itself symbolized life emerging from destruction. So perhaps this terrifying abyss also hid a road leading to life. At that moment, all 4 lightning pools erupted simultaneously, unleashing heaven-shaking radiance that illuminated the entire abyss. As the lightning briefly dispersed, the 3 finally saw a narrow cobblestone path suspended in the void, extending deep into the heart of the lightning abyss. They immediately wondered whether this mysterious path had been left behind by ancient experts or naturally formed by heaven and earth itself. Beneath the path rested an even larger lightning pool nearly 100 zhang in diameter. overflowing with immortal light and boundless lightning that emitted an aura powerful enough to make anyone shudder. Realizing that the hidden stone path was likely the only route through the abyss, Shenming decisively declared that they should follow it. Sanzang agreed, believing they had to discover where it led. Shihao finally accepted that within this realm of endless destruction, the ancient pathway represented the only hope of survival, and the three prepared to continue deeper into the mysterious lightning abyss. Shihao, Sanzang, and Shenming followed an ancient cobblestone path that stretched into the unknown depths of the lightning abyss. The sight before them was contradictory. The abyss was filled with roaring thunder, flashing lightning, and destructive lightning pools, yet the narrow stone path remained strangely quiet and peaceful. As they approached, they hesitated because they knew that once they entered the abyss, they would no longer be able to conceal their cultivation. Contact with any lightning pool would immediately trigger heavenly tribulation, and all three sensed that tribulation would descend the moment they stepped inside. Despite the danger, they chose to continue. As soon as they neared the abyss, violent waves of lightning crashed toward them, and a giant black fish over 10 zhang long suddenly leaped from the lightning sea and lunged at Shenming with its enormous mouth filled with sword-like teeth. Shenming barely dodged the attack. Sanzang quickly realized the fish was not a living creature but a life form formed entirely from lightning. Although it looked incredibly real and ferocious, it soon dissolved back into pure electricity after falling into the sea. Shihao became even more cautious, wondering whether the lightning itself had developed consciousness. Soon the cobblestone path was submerged beneath the lightning again, forcing the trio to move carefully while enduring increasingly violent lightning that no longer resembled rain but sharp blades continuously cutting into their bodies. They dared not use their full cultivation to resist, fearing they would provoke even stronger heavenly tribulation. As they advanced deeper, the lightning became so powerful that ordinary cultivators would have been reduced to ashes instantly. While even the three of them were left covered in blood, during the painful advance, part of Shenming's dress was destroyed, exposing her smooth white back. Shihao joked about it, earning an angry response as Shenming poked his forehead and ordered him to lead the way instead. Though she was not truly angry, the sea of lightning suddenly surged like a real ocean, and enormous waves crashed over them, knocking all three into the air. Their clothes were almost completely destroyed. Portions of their skin were burned black, and Shihao gritted his teeth through the intense pain. He suggested that if the pressure became unbearable, they should simply cross heavenly tribulation while continuing forward. Sanzang disagreed, explaining that the lightning around them was still weaker than tribulation matching their own cultivation and that they should endure it as long as possible. Soon, a terrifying black lightning pool about 3 square feet wide suddenly appeared beside Shenming, releasing dark lightning capable of shattering space itself. Shenming nearly lost her footing and almost fell directly into it. At the same time, another grey lightning pool about 1 zhang wide emerged only an arm's length away, making all three freeze in place. They suspected the lightning pools had detected them and perhaps even possessed intelligence. Shihao suddenly noticed an incredibly rich fragrance coming from the grey pool and recognized the liquid inside as precious lightning tribulation liquid. Seeing such a large quantity tempted him to jump inside and refine an indestructible body. But he knew disturbing the lightning pools would certainly bring disaster, so he restrained himself. While they continued silently enduring the lightning bombardment, an even more terrifying blood-red lightning pool over 10 zhang in diameter appeared behind them. A suffocating smell of blood filled the air, making them feel as though they had entered the end of the world where countless corpses covered the earth and rivers of blood flowed everywhere. It seemed as if the blood essence of heaven and earth had gathered together to form this enormous lightning pool. The terrifying pressure shook their souls, and they believed that if such a pool erupted, even supreme beings would be annihilated instantly. Fortunately, after a long and terrifying standoff, the blood-red pool slowly retreated without releasing its power, followed by the disappearance of the grey and black lightning pools as well. Shenming finally let out a relieved breath, cold sweat covering her body. The brief relief did not last. Endless waves of lightning crashed over them again, shredding what little clothing they still possessed. After climbing back to his feet, Shihao noticed part of Shenming's exposed figure once more and teased her again, prompting her to smash him in the forehead with her fist and send him flying before replacing her damaged clothes with another fiery red dress. Shihao remarked that the lightning would eventually destroy those clothes anyway. Continuing onward, they soon encountered the most violent lightning yet. Silver streams of lightning poured down continuously, burning all three until their bodies were almost completely blackened. Shihao suffered the most because he was still in the self-severing realm, one cultivation realm below Sanzang and Shenming. yet endured exactly the same pressure. Even Xianxia groaned under the relentless assault. They realized that simply enduring the lightning without resisting would eventually kill them. Xi declared that he had planned to undergo heavenly tribulation here anyway to temper himself and that he would soon begin crossing it. Before he could act, an enormous silver bolt suddenly struck all three simultaneously. They coughed blood, were blasted backward, and the entire lightning abyss trembled violently. The surrounding sea of lightning briefly collapsed, revealing the hidden cobblestone path once again. Recognizing this rare opportunity, they immediately rushed downward onto the floating stone path composed of hundreds of smooth rocks suspended in the void while the surrounding lightning temporarily retreated. The trio sprinted across the floating stones as quickly as possible because nearby, a gigantic 100-zhang-wide mottled lightning pool continuously absorbed and released endless lightning. Along the path, they suddenly discovered the preserved corpse of an ancient expert. Half of the body had been scorched black. The bones were cracked, and blood still stained the cobblestones without drying despite the passage of countless years. Xianxia judged that this individual had been an unimaginably powerful expert, yet even such a figure had ultimately died in this place. Before they could investigate further, the boundless sea of thunder roared behind them and surged along the stone path like a real ocean, forcing them to flee at full speed. The lightning that had temporarily scattered returned with overwhelming force, chasing them deeper into the abyss. Finally, they reached what appeared to be the end of the path, where a mountain stood directly before them with the words, Thunder Mountain, carved upon it. Shenming, whose clothing had been completely destroyed by this point, cried out in surprise as they found their path blocked. Behind them, the sea of lightning continued rushing toward them, while thunder from the mountain itself blasted their bodies until blood splattered everywhere. They decided to circle around the mountain instead of climbing over it. As Xi moved around the side, he suddenly froze in shock. At the foot of Thunder Mountain stood an ancient golden tree with luxuriant branches and leaves, its branches hanging down like divine chains of order. The familiar appearance instantly reminded him of the willow deity, causing him to cry out in astonishment. As Xi, Xianxia, and Shenming desperately fled the endless sea of lightning, Xi was suddenly overwhelmed by an incredibly familiar aura. In the distance stood a towering golden willow tree, and without hesitation he cried out, "Willow deity." His companions were stunned. Xianxia could not understand why Xi believed the tree was the legendary willow deity, since everything inside the lightning abyss should have been created by lightning itself rather than being a true living being. Shenming, focused only on escaping, scolded Xi for blocking her path, while the sea of lightning behind them continued to roar forward, threatening to erase everything in its wake. Even after being repeatedly struck by terrifying lightning that blackened Xi and Xianxia's bodies, Xi refused to abandon the hope that the familiar aura belonged to the willow deity. Shenming alone remained relatively unharmed thanks to a thin but extraordinarily powerful protective garment that shielded her body from the lightning. Although Xi knew it was possible that the tree was only a lightning manifestation or an ancient imprint left behind, the aura was so authentic that he could not convince himself otherwise. Ignoring the danger, he rushed toward the tree while shouting the willow deity's name. A massive surge of lightning soon engulfed the three of them, blasting them through the air before smashing them violently against the enormous Thunder Mountain. The mountain resembled a gigantic black lion lying dormant, radiating overwhelming pressure. Simply colliding with it caused lightning to explode through their bodies, tearing flesh apart and scattering blood everywhere. The destructive force was so overwhelming that ordinary cultivators of their level would have been reduced to ashes instantly. Yet the three barely survived. Despite suffering severe injuries, Xi climbed back to his feet and continued running toward the golden tree. As they approached, Xianxia also sensed something unusual. The tree emitted genuine life fluctuations instead of the unstable aura of lightning. Towering high into the sky, the ancient golden willow possessed a thick trunk, countless brilliant branches, and dazzling golden leaves, appearing powerful enough to support the heavens themselves. Around it, the lightning behaved strangely, sometimes weakening and sometimes growing stronger, as though the tree itself disturbed the natural order of the lightning abyss. Xi repeatedly called out to the willow deity, but there was still no answer. Shenming warned that the final stretch toward the tree was even more dangerous, as a path filled with violent lightning blocked their way while the sea of lightning behind them rapidly closed in. The lightning suddenly erupted with even greater fury, and the entire sea crashed forward, striking all three of them once again. They coughed up blood and suffered even heavier injuries, but the tremendous impact threw them directly beneath the golden willow. Standing beside it, Shenming reached out and touched the trunk, confirming that it was truly a real tree rather than condensed lightning. Shocked, she immediately questioned Xi about how he had recognized such an extraordinary existence. Xi, however, could only anxiously ask what had happened to the willow deity. Sanzang carefully examined the tree and observed that its life force was extremely weak. Far less than expected. Walking around the massive trunk, Shihao finally discovered the truth. Large sections of the tree were completely hollow, with only a thin layer of ancient bark remaining, though numerous golden branches still hung like divine chains. The inside of the tree had long been emptied, showing that it had once suffered catastrophic damage. Sanzang concluded that this was merely an ancient body left behind after its primordial spirit had departed countless years ago. Shihao fell silent, remembering that the willow deity had experienced endless calamities throughout history, even abandoning all of its cultivation to become a seed and begin its path anew, leaving fragments of its ruined body scattered across different worlds. As Shihao mourned the possibility that he had arrived too late, Sanzang suddenly realized something remarkable. The terrifying lightning refused to approach the tree. Beneath its branches, the violent tribulation completely disappeared, replaced only by peaceful auspicious light. Even in its nearly dead state, the remains of the willow deity still possessed enough divine power to repel the endless lightning. Although disappointed that he had not found the true willow deity, Shihao soon noticed a faint emerald multicolored light hidden deep inside the hollow trunk. Entering the tree, he discovered a single fresh willow branch unlike the surrounding golden branches. It was vibrant green, full of life, sparkling with moisture, and overflowing with the unmistakable aura of the willow deity. The closer he came, the stronger the familiar presence became, making him believe that perhaps this was not merely an abandoned shell after all. Suddenly, every emerald willow leaf lit up like a miniature green sun. The leaves trembled gently before displaying glowing ancient characters. Together they formed two short messages. If you're able to come here, the leaves will blossom, and a trail of footsteps, a path flickering indefinitely. Shihao called out desperately to the willow deity once more, but no reply came. Sanzang explained that these words were simply divine imprints left behind by an incomparably powerful being, preserving a message but incapable of responding. Shihao immediately understood that the willow deity had deliberately prepared this message for whoever managed to reach this place. Deeply moved, he clenched his fists, realizing that even after countless years, the willow deity had never forgotten him and was still guiding his path. Before they could recover from the shock, the emerald willow branch suddenly erupted with dazzling green light. The entire golden tree instantly began to wither, and every trace of golden radiance flowed into the emerald branch. Once all of the remaining essence had been absorbed, the ancient golden willow crumbled into ashes, while the emerald branch gently descended into Shihao's hands as though choosing him as its rightful owner. At the same moment, the immense thunder mountain silently dissolved into pure lightning and vanished, removing the final obstacle before them. Beyond the lightning abyss lay an entirely different world, peaceful, silent, and desolate like the edge of existence itself. Across the sand stretched a series of faint glowing footprints that continuously flickered in and out of existence. Remembering the words written on the willow leaves, Shihao immediately realized these footprints were the trail of footsteps the willow deity had spoken of. Overcome with emotion after countless years of separation, he believed the willow deity had intentionally left these clues to guide him onward. As he stared at the distant footprints, Shihao could not help but wonder whether following them would finally reunite him with the willow deity and perhaps even the little pagoda. His long-lost companion, Shihao, Sanzang, and Shenming finally arrived at the edge of the lightning abyss and found themselves facing a vast, peaceful desert completely different from the violent world behind them. On the soft sand were extremely faint human-shaped footprints, many already fading away with time, while wisps of mysterious white mist slowly drifted through the air, remaining difficult to perceive even with heavenly eyes. Turning around, they looked back at the endless sea of lightning and the ancient cobblestone path they had crossed. The three of them shuddered as they recalled how they had nearly been struck to death countless times. Sanzang admitted that without the protection of the golden ancient tree, even a supreme being would have been reduced to ashes. Although all three had suffered severe injuries, with their bodies pierced by lightning and blood constantly pouring from their mouths, they still felt incredibly fortunate to have escaped alive. Shenming warned them not to relax too early, reminding everyone that many had perished after surviving the greatest dangers. Behind them, the distant lightning pools continued to rise and fall, releasing overwhelming pressure, while the ancient cobblestone path remained completely undamaged despite enduring endless heavenly lightning through countless ages. Near the path lay the mangled remains of many ancient experts who had failed to survive the crossing. Shenming wondered if the path had been artificially refined, while Shihao boldly guessed it might have been created to collect the legendary lightning tribulation liquid. However, Sanzang believed the path's true purpose was to provide the only survivable route across the lightning abyss, pointing out that the lightning outside the path was dozens of times more terrifying. As they prepared to leave the lightning abyss, Sanzang cautiously stretched one foot toward the desert. Instantly, Violent yellow mist erupted from beneath the sand like thunder, forcing him to retreat. Even so, his war boots were shattered, his flesh was torn open, and blood dripped from his leg despite the extraordinary toughness of his golden undead knight body. Shenming tested the area with a magical artifact, but it too was instantly destroyed by the surging yellow mist. Both realized that the mist possessed destructive power no weaker than the lightning tribulation itself, making the desert another deadly barrier. Shenming then asked Shihao whether the willow branch left behind by willow deity could protect them. Shihao extended the 3-foot-long emerald branch, whose leaves had previously absorbed the essence of the golden ancient tree and now carried faint golden edges. As soon as the yellow mist erupted again, the willow branch emitted brilliant divine light, creating a sacred barrier that completely suppressed the deadly mist and protected everyone beneath it. Seeing that the branch worked perfectly, the three immediately entered the desert under its protection. While walking across the sand, Shenming noticed something astonishing. Despite the soft ground, none of them could leave behind a single footprint. She deliberately stomped the ground with great force, briefly causing yellow mist to rise again, but the willow branch immediately suppressed it, and the sand remained completely unchanged. Shihao and Sanzang also tried, but the result was identical. This made the ancient faint footprints even more mysterious. Shihao quietly speculated that perhaps they had been left by willow deity herself. After traveling about 1,000 zhang, they discovered an ancient stone stele engraved with the oldest form of Immortal script. Shenming recognized the language, while Sanzang interpreted its meaning. The inscription warned all future travelers that the path ahead would become increasingly dangerous and that no one of later generations could leave footprints in this desert. Every visitor could only follow the ancient trail left by an unknown predecessor in search of the ultimate truth hidden beyond. The revelation shocked Shihao. From ancient times until the present, countless supreme experts had been unable to create their own path, instead following these same fading footprints. Whoever had originally left them must have been an existence that transcended history itself. As they advanced through the strangely silent desert, they almost felt as if countless ancient cultivators had once walked beside them, only to perish before reaching the end. Eventually, the yellow sand gave way to a crimson blood desert. The moment they stepped onto it, terrifying bloody mist erupted from below, carrying immense destructive power. Although the willow branch shielded them, an even more shocking scene unfolded as endless lightning from the distant lightning abyss suddenly descended to bombard the blood mist. Sanzang observed that the heavenly lightning seemed to be purifying an ominous force rather than attacking them. Every time the bloody mist surged upward, lightning immediately struck it with overwhelming force. This led him to suspect that the true purpose of the lightning abyss was not simply to exist as a natural phenomenon, but to suppress this terrifying blood mist. Shihao became increasingly worried, realizing that willow deity had willingly chosen a path through such unimaginable dangers. They eventually left the blood desert and arrived on ordinary ground where the willow branch's protective barrier naturally faded, proving the surrounding area no longer contained hidden threats. Not far ahead, an enormous ancient dam appeared before them. Halfway over the structure hung the dried corpse of a massive creature that seemed to have crawled over from the opposite side before dying countless ages ago. Although its body had long since withered, several drops of true immortal blood still remained fresh, radiating immortal light and divine energy. As Shihao, Sanzang, and Shenming cautiously approached, unbearable pressure instantly descended upon them. Their skin split open, blood burst from their bodies, their bones nearly shattered, and they felt as though their entire bodies would explode under the pressure released by only a few drops of immortal blood. Even more frightening, the blood carried an irresistible aura of reverence that nearly forced them to kneel and worship. At the critical moment, the willow branch released another wave of divine radiance that isolated the terrifying pressure and allowed him to retreat. Sanzang explained that the corpse had already dried up, leaving behind only traces of blood and residual power. Had living immortal blood still remained within the body, everything around it would have been crushed beyond survival. Looking beyond the dam, they noticed enormous remains of shattered stars scattered across the opposite side, leading Sanzang to speculate that when the immortal creature died, even the stars in the heavens had collapsed and fallen because of its death. Continuing to investigate along the dam instead of approaching directly, they discovered a second dried immortal corpse hanging over the structure in exactly the same manner, proving that more than one undying existence had attempted to cross from the opposite side before dying there countless ages ago. The horrifying discovery left Shihao with countless questions about this ancient forbidden land and whether willow deity had truly crossed the dam into the mysterious world beyond. Shihao, Sanzang, and Shenming continued following the ancient dike and discovered 5 ancient corpses lying along it, all of which had died countless ages ago. Although their bodies had completely dried up, every corpse still radiated overwhelming pressure that surpassed imagination. The ruined blood surrounding them retained terrifying divine might, splitting the void. collapsing space, and making anyone who approached feel as if their bodies would explode. Xihao paid special attention to the fourth corpse, whose race he had never encountered in either the Nine Heavens or the Foreign Realm. It possessed a human head with a flat face, a golden vertical eye on its forehead, a humanoid body covered in silver scales, and a lion's tail. Xianxia speculated that it was likely an ancestor of the extinct three-eyed divine clan. According to ancient records, that clan was powerful enough to challenge true immortals, and when their third eye opened, heaven and earth would lose color while ancient realms collapsed. However, the true ancestral bloodline had long vanished, leaving only mixed blood descendants whose appearances and abilities were greatly weakened. The fifth corpse appeared almost identical to a modern human except for its golden skin and bones. Shenming explained that its body surpassed even the legendary Vajra-unbreaking body, and when it had been alive, a single burst of anger would have been enough to shatter ancient worlds and send stellar rivers crashing down. Even after countless ages, the pressure from its remaining blood nearly tore Shenming apart before she hastily retreated. The trio soon discovered that as long as they remained a certain distance from the dike, an invisible barrier blocked the lingering power of the corpses. Nevertheless, simply looking at the five bodies filled them with an irresistible urge to kneel in worship. Xihao wondered how beings carrying immortal blood, whose lifespans should have been virtually endless, could have died. All five corpses shared the same strange condition. Their flesh and essence had completely withered away, while only the blood spilled before death still contained vitality and divine power. They speculated that either an unimaginable injury had drained their life force while preserving the spilled blood, or some unknown existence had devoured all of the essence within their bodies. Judging from the scene, the five experts had crawled back from the other side of the dam after suffering fatal injuries before finally dying here. Realizing this, the three hesitated to continue, fearing they would simply be walking towards certain death if they crossed the dam. Xihao also could not understand why Willow deity had ventured beyond without leaving him any warning. They eventually chose a section of the dam free of corpses and bloodstains before climbing to the top. Beyond it stretched endless darkness shrouded in thick black mist, making it impossible to see what lay below. Using all of their divine abilities, they barely sensed the distant sound of waves rising and falling, as though an endless ocean existed unimaginably far away, separated from them by the passage of countless ages. However, they believed this could not be the true source of danger hidden beyond the dam. To test the place, Xianxia released a thumb-sized wooden crane secret treasure capable of storing magical power and displaying combat strength equal to his own. Yet the instant the crane entered the darkness, it exploded into pieces. Xianxia's expression changed drastically, realizing that if even a treasure equivalent to himself was instantly destroyed, the three of them would certainly die the moment they crossed the boundary. They immediately abandoned the idea of entering and instead continued searching along the dam. Eventually they discovered another enormous altar constructed from countless refined star remains stacked into a structure that towered toward the heavens. Beside it stood another ancient stone stele inscribed with the oldest immortal script. After reading it, Xianxia interpreted the warning: those who are not at the top of their generation, do not try to cross. The message shocked all three of them, because it implied that even the greatest geniuses and supreme experts of every era could only attempt to cross the dam rather than succeed with certainty. Shenming then noticed many faint footprints covering the altar, the exact same mysterious footprints they had followed earlier through the desert. Xianxia carefully inspected the structure and realized that the colossal altar had never been completed. With only half of it constructed, they wondered whether the mysterious individual who left the footprints had intended to use the altar to cross beyond the dam or escape somewhere else, and whether every powerful expert who came afterward had merely followed those same footprints. Soon afterward, Xihao discovered the footprints again leading directly from the dam into the mist-covered darkness, where they suddenly vanished without leaving another trace. Believing that only Willow deity could have left such footprints, Xihao held the green willow branch and asked for guidance. To his surprise, the willow branch immediately emitted brilliant green light and pointed toward a nearby direction. Following its guidance, the trio traveled only several hundred zhang before reaching another area covered with stone and earth, where they discovered an ancient transport formation crudely drawn into the ground like simple graffiti. The formation's ancient lines clearly dated back to an unimaginably distant era, and Shenming noticed several more of the mysterious footprints surrounding it, suggesting it had also been created by the same unknown individual. Suddenly, a green willow leaf drifted out from a crack in the rocks. Glowing with divine light, words appeared upon it: those who are not at the top of their generation, return through the ancient formation. Do not try to search. Xihao immediately recognized it as a message left specifically for him by Willow deity, warning him not to pursue the mystery any further. He silently wondered whether Willow deity had finally regained its complete cultivation after undergoing repeated destruction and rebirth throughout countless ages. Although Shenming sighed with regret at never learning what truly existed beyond the dam, the trio realized the ancient transport formation was likely the safest way to leave the area. Before departing, however, Shi Hao decided that he would first undergo heavenly tribulation and seize a lightning pool before returning.